Hey kids, Chris here, day 10 of the 31 days of Halloween, and had a late night last night. Had some work to do, and I was still kind of, horrified from the nightmarish experience that was the debate. So I didn't get to bed until about 1 a.m., and then I got up around 6:30, and so I've had a long day, and I am ready for bed. So I don't have a very long segment for you tonight, but tonight I wanted to focus on something that I think is unique. And just to let you know, I mean, people who know me know this, but I collect a vast array of things, mostly comic books, action figures. But in more recent years, like I'd say the last 10 or 15, I've really gotten into collecting movies and gotten more into horror movies. And as a result of that, I've collected and Halloween. And that's been like the last 15, 20 years. So I've got a lot of Halloween stuff. I've got a lot of masks. I love masks. I always have had an attachment to masks. They're just so cool. And you're going to see a lot more. You've seen a few. And as we get deeper into the 31 days of Halloween, you're going to see some more really cool ones. In fact, if the shipment comes in tomorrow night from Amazon or tomorrow, then tomorrow will be a very cool focus on a mask that I just ordered. And so I collect a lot of different things. Action figures, comics, movies. I don't really have any high-end items like statues. I have a few, but they're not super expensive. I also don't have any super rare comics. So if you were thinking of robbing me, you're not gonna. I mean, it would be probably more money to try and sell it on eBay than it would be worth to get from it. But I love what I have, and I have some stuff that has a lot of meaning to me. It has a lot of sentimental value. My first print run of The Death of Superman, The Death and Return of Superman, means a lot to me. That storyline was huge for me as a kid and still is. On these bookcases over here, my Batman 1989 action figures, and I've got like the VHS, and I've got the original video game for the Nintendo, and I've also got the box in pristine condition for that Nintendo game, which brings the value up on that. So I get some money for that. Never would I sell it though. I've got like the movie book and the movie magazine, things of that nature, the novelization, cool stuff. So that all has, huge meaning to me because those, both Batman '89 and The Death of Superman and various comics really were an integral part of my growing up and really got me through some dark times. And so they're special to me. But as I, think about all the stuff I have here in the Big Show Studios, or as the girls call it, the Super Cave, there's not anything really here that like you couldn't go and buy. Really, really and truly, as the saying goes, really and truly. It's not a saying, but you know what I mean. There's nothing here that's wholly unique. Everything in here, I could tell you, oh, I got this here, I got this there. You could probably track it down on eBay. You could maybe get it at a comic book convention. It isn't that rare. However, I have one thing that is very rare. So briefly, I want to tell you this. Now, my fellow Abbevillians will remember this and know this. When I was 12 years old, 1988, just kind of going about life in a very small town in southern Louisiana, just going through, the motions, eighth grader. We have a movie here there in Abbeville. We had the Lafitte Cinema 4 screens. So not a big multiplex. But I loved movies, and I had since I was a kid. So when movies came, I always looked forward to them. And then one day, this is pre-internet, kids, so we didn't have any, we didn't get a notification on your phone that, hey, this big news is happening. There was no such thing. Your phone, you talked on it, and that's how you got a notification. But through newspapers, magazines, and of course local news, we found out that a major studio was coming to film a movie. Now, it really wasn't a major studio, but at the time, I think we all were like, oh my gosh. And they were coming to film a remake of The Blob. Now, I think I had seen the original Blob. If you're not familiar with the Blob, giant blob, hence the name, that like rolls around and eats people, and that was the original 1956 maybe. When that one came out. So if you watch The Blob, you watch any of those 1950s sci-fi / horror movies, they're set usually in these small towns. And they're very picturesque and they're very innocent. And, it's the town that you might live in. Nothing horrible could happen there unless a meteor lands with an alien life form that's going to eat people and then grow bigger each time it does and maybe could swallow the world. Then your town, not so innocent anymore. Well, so they decided to come to Abbeville, and I don't know that at the age of 12 I was really cognizant of why, but as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate how quaint Abbeville is. Now, certain parts of it, I mean, certain parts are modernized, and you got your Walmarts and your Chili's and your Dollar Generals and all that business. But the downtown area is really locked in a specific era, I think. It's timeless, but it has that 1950s feel of an old, of a small town. And so they decided they were going to film the remake of the Blob there. Now, at the time, the director, all of that, I was not knowledgeable enough to know who these people were. But as I've learned more and as I've gotten older and researched the Blob, I was fascinated to learn that the great Frank Darabont was involved in the writing of the screenplay for the remake of the Blob. Now, Abbeville was a stand-in for the fictional Arborville, and it was neat because they filmed our very unique town, and then they put mountains behind it and these big, like fir trees, which none of that exists here. It was it was a ski town in Colorado, whereas we are in South Louisiana, very close to the Gulf. Ain't no snow here, kids, unless you got it in your freezer and you make it there. So it was cool that they did that. So when the movie came out, it was a huge deal. We all went to the theater, and they were filming in Abbeville. Okay, so 1988, you're not going to have people going around with their phones taking pictures because you couldn't take your phone out of your house at that time. And it didn't take pictures. It was a phone. But you had people going around town, and occasionally they'd snap a few photos of what was going on, and it was a big deal. And even the school I attended, Mount Carmel Elementary, where I was an 8th grader, and then also Vermilion Catholic, the high school, and Abbeville High, which was the public school there, got their football teams together and did a mock football game in Vermilion Catholic's football stadium as part of the movie, and I'm in it. Now, you don't see me in the movie, but I'm there. I watched them film this, and it was amazing, and all my friends, and all 3 friends that I had at the time, and it was such a cool thing. It was like such a big deal that this would happen to us in Abbeville. Well, not to give anything away, but there's a scene in the Blob, the remake, where, and it's in the original, where a weakness is discovered about the Blob. Again, you should really check these movies out. Both the original and the remake are really good. The remake really is ahead of its time because you think that the guy, like the jock, is going to be the hero, and it really is his girlfriend. And she's like, very much kind of like your Laurie Strode in Halloween or your Ripley in Aliens. Like, she really takes charge, and it's great stuff, Plus, she's very attractive. Yeah. And you'll recognize Shawnee Smith. Remember her from some 80s movies? Yeah, very pretty. So, they find a weakness of the Blob, and that weakness turns the Blob crystalline. So I can remember one day I come home, and my mom's like, "Oh, I got something for you." And she said, "Yeah, I was out today where they were filming for the movie, and I have something for you." Now, she doesn't remember any of this, and God bless her, now that I'm a parent of a kid roughly my age then, I can see how she wouldn't remember anything from that time. It's very, very busy and difficult and crazy. But she gave me this. And this may not look like money. It may just look like crystals here. It is resin, right? It's just resin that's been colored, dyed red. And there was an old gas station that I think was not used as a gas station anymore, but it was across from a bank right near downtown by our big church in downtown Abbeville, St. Mary Magdalene. And that was a scene where the Blob was crystallized briefly, right, during a battle. My mom went, she doesn't remember the specifics, but I remember her telling me she went and got this off the set. So there wasn't apparently the security we hear about these days. But she went and she broke this off and gave me this piece of the Blob. So you can see it's really cool. I keep it in one of these baseball display cases here just because parts of it broke off. I mean, this now is, I ain't good at math. It's almost 30 years old, 28 years old. So I try to take care of it. And it's unique. No one else, very few people that I know of have this. I've found some online, pieces of the Blob, but not many. And so it is a very unique thing that I have here, and it's cool. So I just wanted to show you this piece of the Blob that I keep here on my desk to remind me, and also wrappers from dark chocolate Hershey's Kisses that I eat occasionally. But here is this piece of the Blob, and in the movie, the crystalline Blob eventually goes back to liquid, and that's where the danger is. And that hasn't happened in 28 years. So thankfully, we're safe so far. Or are we? So I don't know. But anyway, that was such a cool thing for a kid. And, if you're a movie maker and you're watching this, highly unlikely, go back to Abbeville. Very, very picturesque. If I were making a movie, a horror movie especially, that it disarms you. It's the beauty of it. And I think that's why they did so many of those sci-fi monster movies in those small towns. It's because like, oh, this is downtown USA. What could go wrong here? Oh, there's a giant monster that's going to eat you. Or, oh, there's an alien that's taken over your brain. Whatever it might be. So it was really cool. It was a highlight of my childhood, and I thought I would just share that with you. So happy 10th day of the 31 days of Halloween. We continue to roll on, and hopefully tomorrow night, like I said, I'm waiting for something to come in the mail, and I will show it to you tomorrow and explain why it's so cool to me, and there's some other features of it as well, some other things that I have here that go with it that I'll show you that's really cool. So thanks for watching, and please continue to share these videos. Just share the link to my site, The Big Show, at, well, no, not The Big Show at anything, thebigshow.com. So please share that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support, and you'll see me tomorrow. Good evening.